Human activity can lead to a variety of disasters, the most common of which are air pollution and oil spills. When you hear the word disaster, you probably think of forceful occurrences that are beyond the control of human beings. Natural disasters, such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and wildfires, are examples of things that cannot be prevented. But the blame cannot always be placed on Mother Nature. Human activity has been directly responsible for a number of the most catastrophic occurrences in the natural world. Human activity can easily lead to disasters that spiral out of control, such as pollution of the air and oil spills. Accidents like these can occasionally result in irreparable harm being done to Earth and the organisms that live on it. Therefore, it is in our best interest to learn from the people who have failed the most spectacularly. At this point, the size of the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico is comparable to that of Puerto Rico. Already, it has made its way to the wetlands of Louisiana. Animals that have been contaminated with oil are starting to wash up on the shores. The areas where shrimp, fish, and oysters could be harvested have been closed. Residents of Mississippi and Alabama are currently holding their breath in anticipation of the oil to arrive. As an environmental catastrophe for the Gulf Coast appears to be looming, in this video we will take a look at 10 other environmental catastrophes caused by humans, some of which have been forgotten, while others are well known that could have been avoided. Number 10. The Dust Bowl. One of the most environmentally catastrophic events in the history of the United States was caused by agricultural practices that were driven by the market. These practices included plowing the virgin topsoil of the Great Plains and practicing monoculture farming. Dust storms of such severity that reached 10,000 feet in the sky and were dubbed black blizzards were caused between 1930 and 1940 as a direct result of drought conditions and the depletion of farmland. It is estimated that 2.5 million people were forced to relocate as a result of the disaster, which exacerbated the effects of the Great Depression and contributed to what some have referred to as the most difficult time in the history of the country. Number 9. Poison in Minamata Bay. The Chiso Corporation of Japan discharged wastewater from its factories that contained high concentrations of mercury into the water around the city of Minamata between the years 1932 and 1968. The mercury tainted the marine food chain, which in turn caused thousands of locals to fall ill. This, in turn, led to the discovery of a new neurological condition that was later given the name Chiso-Minamata disease. More than 1,700 people have lost their lives as a result of the disease, which can also lead to convulsions, the loss of sight and hearing, paralysis, coma, and ultimately death. Number 8. Echocide in Vietnam. Agent Blue, Purple, and Pink were part of the rainbow herbicides that were dropped over the jungles of Southeast Asia, but Orange was responsible for more than half of the nearly 20 million gallons of lethal chemicals that were used by the United States military between the years 1961 and 1971. The loss of human life was horrific, and the ecocide that resulted from the widespread destruction of the environment in the region inspired the creation of a new word. Number 7. Death in Bhopal. On December 3, 1984, 32 tons of lethal chemical gases leaked into the city of Bhopal, India. As a direct result of the invisible, airborne poison, an estimated 9,000 people passed away immediately. This incident is considered to be the worst industrial disaster in the history of the world. It is estimated that 20,000 people died as a result of the disaster in the weeks that followed, and that hundreds of thousands of other residents were left with permanent injuries. The Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, which was the location of the disaster, is still used for toxic waste disposal today and continues to pollute the city's groundwater. Number 6. Catastrophe at Chernobyl. The first nuclear power plant accident occurred in 1957 at Windscale, followed by 3 Mile Island in 1979. However, in 1986, a nuclear reactor at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine experienced a meltdown, making it the most catastrophic nuclear power plant accident in history. According to the Chernobyl Forum report compiled by the United Nations, the total number of cancer-related fatalities attributable to radiation exposure was estimated to be 4,000. Before we move further, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. Number 5. The oil crisis. The Exxon Valdez disaster, which occurred in 1989 and involved the release of 11 million gallons of oil into the Prince William Sound of Alaska, is widely regarded as the most infamous oil spill in history. However, it is not even close to being the largest oil spill ever recorded. For instance, the oil spill that occurred during the Gulf War in 1991 caused at least 160 million gallons of oil to be released into the Persian Gulf. Despite this, the Exxon Valdez disaster increased public awareness of the significant negative effects of oil spills on the environment, which resulted in the passage of the Oil Pollution Act by Congress in the year 1990. Unfortunately, cleanup efforts in the wake of the Exxon Valdez disaster, such as high-pressure washing of shorelines, had adverse effects on the once pristine ecosystem of the Sound, which was one of the consequences. Number 4. Dying oceans. The collapse of the cod population in the historically abundant waters off the coast of Newfoundland in 1992 resulted in the loss of employment for 40,000 people and had a devastating impact on the marine ecosystem of the region. Today, overfishing is a problem that affects fishing stocks all the way from Iceland to Chile. The ecological boundaries of the world's oceans are being tested as never before. The writing is on the wall, and it couldn't be clearer. And declining fish populations don't just have an effect on the large predators that live in the ocean, they also have a negative impact on the economies and ways of life of the humans who hunt fish for a living. Number 3. Perfect storm over Lake Victoria. The largest lake in Africa is currently in the center of a perfect storm of environmental crises, including pollution from chemicals and raw sewage, overfishing, a plague of water hyacinth plants, and exploding algae blooms that suffocate flora and fauna. In some areas, the lake's edge is receding by as much as 450 feet. The lake itself is also getting smaller. The fact that 40 million people in the African countries of Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania depend on Lake Victoria for their means of subsistence and livelihoods makes this one of the most severe environmental catastrophes currently taking place. Number 2. Rape of the Amazon. In the last few decades, human activities such as logging, soy farming, cattle ranching, and road construction have caused the loss of 20% of the Amazon rainforest. It is impossible to put a price on the damage done to the forest's biodiversity, and it is possible that the release of large amounts of carbon that had been stored in the forest's flora is hastening the process of global warming. There are now some experts who believe that one way to slow down the deforestation of the Amazon is to increase employment opportunities through environmentally responsible development. It's no good people saying the Amazon has to be the sanctuary of humanity and forgetting that there are 20 million people living there, said President Luiz Lula da Silva of Brazil. The Amazon is already the sanctuary of humanity. Number 1. Our warming planet. There are swarms of jellyfish. Glaciers that are melting. Lakes turn to desert. Disease is rapidly spreading. The effects of global warming, which are caused by increased levels of greenhouse gases, sound a lot like the descriptions of the Great Tribulation that can be found in the Bible. The first conference on climate change was held in 1963, and ever since then, scientists have been sounding alarms with an increasing sense of urgency. They are trying to get our attention by pointing out that the human species is getting dangerously close to a critical threshold, beyond which we will no longer be able to influence the warming climate. This threshold is being caused by the unchecked consumption of fossil fuels. This brings us to the end of the video. Do let us know about your opinions in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, like and subscribe to our channel to stay connected with us. Thanks for watching.